This is the Branching Out Genealogy Podcast, your go-to guide for family history news, tips, tech, and tea. Here are your hosts, Elizabeth Swanay O'Neill and Tami Osmer Mize.
Welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of the Branching Out Genealogy Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Swanay O'Neill, and I'm really excited to be here today with my co-host, Tami Osmer Mize. In today's episode, we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves, for those of you who don't know us, and a bit about our genealogy journeys. And then we're going to dive into what's going on and what's coming up in the genealogy world.
And then we can wrap up with our tea time segment, which is a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And we might even spill some tea.
So let's get back to our introductions. Tami, you've been doing family history for a long time, haven't you? Now, how long has it been?
Well, I've been actively researching family history since the year 2000. I started researching when my dad started researching. He called me up one day and said, "Hey, I want to look into my family history." And I thought, yay, we can do that together. And it's been really wonderful. It's brought us together in so many ways since then. So that's been since the year 2000. I started lecturing and I started writing blogs and magazine articles. And then in 2016, I started running Conference Keeper and sort of ended up that being my path and my passion. And so that's what I do now is I run conferencekeeper.org, which is a genealogy events calendar, free.
And if there's anyone out there who doesn't know about Conference Keeper, you need to go now. We'll wait. No, we won't. But go check it out because you need to see Conference Keeper.
Well, thank you. I think so too. We'll talk about that another time. That'll be a whole episode. How about you, Elizabeth? Who are you and what do you do?
Well, I started doing genealogy research in 1987. Yes, I am that old. And I got into it because my aunt, who was a retired teacher, took up genealogy as her hobby after she retired, and she started going to the library in Salt Lake City, which was nothing like it is today, but even back then it was the place to go for research. And she came to visit me one day, and she had all this information, and she was showing me pedigree charts of all these cousins and people and ancestors that I didn't even know existed. And it really took hold in my heart because my family was so small and I was feeling it shrinking around me. But knowing that there were all these other people out there that I was related to made it feel like it wasn't so small. So I just sort of dove in headfirst into family history since then. Right now, I am a professional researcher and a writer, and I speak at several conferences. And I was recently certified by the Board for Certification of Genealogists.
Oh, that's going to be an episode too. I got to hear all about that one. I know it was a lot of work.
It was a lot, yes. But I don't say that to discourage anybody who's thinking about doing it. I tell you it to be honest and real. And if you are interested in pursuing that and taking that on as your path, then I would love to hear from you and maybe help you get on your way.
Well, that sounds like it's a lot more than just sending in your name to an address on the back of a matchbook, which again dates me.
Yeah, it is a little more than that, but I am glad I did it, and I feel like it made me a better genealogist going through the process.
And don't forget to talk about your website too. You have one. Let's hear about it.
I do have a few, but the one that I want to talk about is called Heart of the Family, and the URL is thefamilyheart.com. That's because heartofthefamily.com was already taken. So I got the next best thing, thefamilyheart.com, and I invite you over there. I share all kinds of articles to help you get started on your research and for archiving and ways for you to make family history part of your life.
And you have a community on Facebook too.
I do. It's the Heart of the Family community on Facebook, and on my website there is a link to join that if you feel so inclined.
Well, I always enjoy getting your newsletters because I always learn something from your newsletters. So they're always informative.
I kind of wonder if I overshare sometimes, but It is what it is. And if you're not already getting the Conference Keeper newsletter, you need to get that if you want to know what's going on. If you're a speaker, if you're a family historian and you want to know what's happening, what was there, like 287 new things were just added? I seriously don't know how you keep it straight.
At any given time, there's probably a couple thousand events on the calendar between conferences and seminars and workshops and webinars and in-person meetings. And basically everything on the calendar is any kind of an event that would be of interest to a genealogist. And in a very selfish way, I love putting it together because as I'm going through the list of what's been added for the week, I respond and register for all these new Zoom events that I wouldn't have otherwise known about. And everything from specific research in specific areas. So a lot of the events are submitted by not only genealogical societies, but public libraries and historical societies and specialty museums like the Museum of Civil War Medicine. So you're going to find a really broad variety of topics. So I'm always learning something new, and I just love it. That's what I love about it, and that's why I keep doing this. Like I said, it's kind of selfish, but it's hopefully a very useful source. And you mentioned for genealogy speakers especially, I think that's one of the reasons that I started putting so much work into Conference Keeper was because at the time I was a genealogy speaker, and you know full well as well, Elizabeth, how much effort goes into keeping an eye on all of those calls for presentations and making sure you don't miss the due dates and and then that feeling of crud that was due yesterday and I missed that one, right? So we have one whole page devoted to it, and they're listed on the calendar by their due date, so you can just pull up that whole list and send in all your submissions. So anyhow, try to make it convenient, try to make it helpful, and
which it is.
Talk about it forever. So we'll just move on from there. I will mention, though, too, that, so like I said, we'd started this in 2016, and I'd run it since then. And then in 2022, I turned it into a nonprofit. And then in 2023, I gave that nonprofit to the National Genealogical Society to manage because I was not enjoying the paperwork and the filing and the account management and all that sort of stuff. So I still get to run it and manage it and do all the parts of it that I love, and they handle everything else. So there we are.
And if you're sitting at home thinking you have nothing to do, then there's no excuse because you can go over to Conference Keeper and immediately find something to do. I want to look up that Museum of Civil War Medicine. That sounds right up my alley.
The calendars are searchable, and in terms of finding something to do, there's a page of volunteer opportunities from all over, from states and from just everybody that has these volunteer, whether you've got 5 minutes or 5 hours, and it's not just family search transcription, which is an excellent way to spend your time. But I just posted one this past weekend for the Revolutionary War pension files, which is but their focus on it is more on the land records that are involved in those. So another one that was posted this weekend was the records of inmates at Leavenworth from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. And it includes, of course, mugshots and the crimes and all that. I have
so many criminals
stuff
in my family.
But anyhow,
they're so interesting. I mean, I'm not ashamed of them, but I'm also not proud of them, but it gives you so much to research. You know, they did something, they committed a crime. It was probably in the news and in the prison records and all over the place. So, you know, don't shy away from things that you're not proud of in your family history. They were just people, just like us. Don't put them on a pedestal. They were just people.
That's
and people
true.
do unusual, unpleasant things.
That's the trick. Find the interesting story for everybody. Everybody's got one. Well, now that you know a little bit about us and our backgrounds, let's talk a little bit about this podcast and what our vision and purpose is, what we're hoping to do with it. Elizabeth, why don't you start out?
Well, I'm seeing it as a little bit different maybe than some of the other podcasts that you might listen to in the genealogy world. We want to talk about what's happening currently, what's going on in the genealogy world, conferences, webinars, events, websites, tech, tools, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And we may not shy away from topics that other podcasts aren't going to get into. So that's kind of what we're thinking. What do you think, Tami?
You know, what she said. But I think for me, and looking at the bigger picture of that, is the listener can walk away with all of these little bits of information and put it to use to make their research even better, to find a tech tool that works for you. Oh, I have got so many fun little websites and tech tools that speed up a lot of things that I do. And I can't wait to talk about and share them, and any other little research tips. And with Elizabeth being now a professional genealogist, a CG, you can share with us the right way to do these things. So I think that's why we're here, is just as a general chit chat, a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of knowledge.
We'll see how it evolves. That's our vision. We'll see where it goes. And we would love to hear some input from you, the listener, and let us know how we're doing. So we covered a little bit about who we are and where we see this going. And we also wanted to talk to you about a big event that's coming up, which is RootsTech 2025. This year's conference is going to be bigger and better than ever, and I'm excited to be there. I will be giving 3 lectures, so whether you're attending in person or you're attending virtually, it is a big experience being part of RootsTech.
It is. And I think that's a wonderful way to talk about this in terms of virtual versus in-person. Except for this year, 2024, I think I've been to every RootsTech since the very first one. And it was like the first year, there were about 3,000 people there, which seemed big at the time until, 2019, the last year before COVID hit, or was it 2020? Anyhow, there was like
2020 was the last one right before COVID.
Yeah, I remember we were there and wondering if they were going to allow us to fly home. We were hearing these whispers of pandemic, but I think that year there were 30,000 people in attendance. It was huge. But since the pandemic, they have added a virtual. So the first year or two, it was virtual only, and now it's hybrid, both virtual and in person. And the virtual RootsTech is available all year long. There are hundreds of videos in there. You can create a playlist and then go back and watch them whenever you feel like it. So there's a lot of value, and that's completely free. So that's great, but there's nothing like being there in person. There's all kinds of people there. There's all ages of people there. And on Saturdays, it's a big family day, and there's literally every age imaginable, from young kids to old genealogists. But being there in person is, to me, it's where I get to catch up with friends and people that I've met online throughout the years. Facebook, quote, friends that I've never actually met in person. We get to run into each other at RootsTech. So it's almost like always a homecoming or a reunion. And that's one of the things I look forward to. That and the Expo Hall. The Expo Hall is so much fun to learn about all the new products, new books, new computer programs, what's new and what's coming up. And that's always fun. Shopping. Every year, there's always something new. And it's kind of been fun over the years to see who's stayed and who's come and gone. But it's really interesting because whether or not a product is exactly what you're looking for or in your price range, whether it's free or there's a cost, being exposed to these new ideas gives you a bigger sense of, maybe I need to think more in that direction. Maybe what if I did this? How can I broaden my research and incorporate these ideas?
Well, in 2024, we saw the rise of AI, and they kept saying that AI today is like DNA was a decade ago. So there was a lot of chatter about AI, and I suspect that next year there's going to be even more. And maybe after a couple more years, it's not going to be a new exciting thing. It's just going to be a tool that we use, just like DNA. It's not something that we shy away from or is new new and we have to learn all about it, we'll just be using it. It'll just be part of our genealogy toolkit.
Well, I think that a lot of us have been using it and not realizing it for so long in a lot of our searches and queries and, ask this website a question and you get an answer. So a lot of it is things that you never really even thought you were using AI for, but it has so many helpful aspects, especially for genealogy.
I think I'd be lost without Grammarly. As much as I love grammar, Grammarly has something to teach me most days.
So I think the takeaway for me is that no matter where you are in your genealogy journey, whether you're a seasoned genealogist or you're just getting started or even just thinking about it, RootsTech has something for everybody. You have the chance to connect, the chance to learn and growing your skills. And it's just an invaluable experience in person or online, but I highly recommend the in person.
Absolutely agree. And if you are attending in person, please don't forget to stop by and say hello to us. We would love to meet you. You will probably find us in the media center. We tend to gravitate to that, although I'm frequently out shopping and looking for new things to bring home and try out. And also, as I mentioned, I'll be giving 3 lectures this year. I don't know when they will be because the schedule hasn't been released yet, but as we get closer to that time, I will happily share when that will be. Either way, we can't wait to meet you and share everything RootsTech has to offer.
Well, let's switch gears now and we can talk about other topics that are fairly current in our genealogy world. Well, since we've been talking about RootsTech, it is perfect to roll right into a announcement about FamilySearch, who sponsors RootsTech. Just this month on November 13th, and this is 2024, FamilySearch celebrated 130 years since it was founded. Now, it was started out as the Genealogical Society of Utah and then sort of later morphed into FamilySearch, but they have always been innovators in the genealogy world. And I mean, everybody who does genealogy knows how valuable their records are. A lot of people don't realize that they began microfilming records from around the world in 1938, and they've continued since then.
I did not know that.
Right, 1938. I didn't even know microfilm was available then.
You know that there was microfilming going on as part of the Works Progress Administration to give people jobs and all of that. And we so have benefited from the things that they have microfilmed. But
well, they've microfilmed all around the world, which, I think a lot of us with ancestors from other countries, which I think is the majority of people, at some point back there, you came from somewhere else. I've been able to research my mom's family back into the 1600s by reading parish registers and bishops' books that are handwritten, these little tiny handwritten script books that FamilySearch went in and microfilmed. And there would be no way I could have access to that if I wasn't able to go look at these films. Just in 2021, they completely finished digitizing the 2.4 million rolls of microfilm. And then, as most people know, they're still in the process of getting it all transcribed and indexed and usable. And here comes AI helping out, right? Have you used the labs?
Yes, I love the labs. And, I thought it was pretty efficient and had pretty much had mined FamilySearch for all the information that I could get on the one side of my family that I'd been working on. I was wrong. I have found things in counties that I didn't even know these people went to.
For anyone that's not yet familiar with FamilySearch Labs, right now it's currently just land records and I believe court records as well.
Court records, yeah.
Where these are records
and
that have
probate too, I believe.
Yes, probate. And these are records that haven't been transcribed and indexed yet, so that in a normal search, when you search for your ancestor's name, these records aren't going to show up. But you can go to the microfilm if you know that they died in this year or whatever, and then scroll through and read through every page yourself, looking for your person.
Many.
How many of us have had Popeye arms from that one crank of the microfilm? But with the use of AI, they're sending AI in, and oh my goodness, I've done some searches and come up with dozens and dozens of hits on land records and all of these things that I'd never seen before on the people that I'm searching for. And not only does it bring it up, but it also transcribes the record over on the right-hand side. So sometimes it's a little wonky depending on how bad the handwriting is.
Kind of hit or miss.
But it's usually usable, and you can, makes it easier to read sometimes. And then, so I cheat sometimes with things like land records or something that's in a whole bunch of legalese, and I'll take that transcription and I'll put it into another AI program and say, turn this into English for dummies. and let AI rewrite it for me. And so, instead of saying grantor, grantee, blah, 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 it'll say, Mr. Smith sold his land to Mr. Jones, and so it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. But that's FamilySearch Labs. And it's just so exciting with FamilySearch to see where they're going, what they're going to do next, how are they going to bring more information, more genealogy available to all of us. And as always, it's free. You just got to love them. And their URL to try out the labs is familysearch.org/labs. I'm pretty sure that's the one. So it's very easy to use and just opens up so much. So congratulations, FamilySearch, on 130 years.
Happy birthday.
And many more.
Please, many more. Keep it coming.
And since I just mentioned that we are here in mid-November of 2024, what's coming up also is Thanksgiving and, of course, Black Friday, which means sales, which means
love me some sales.
Discounts on all those great genealogy programs and products and everything that we use on a regular basis. So, Elizabeth, have you got anybody who's having some good sales?
I do. I train for Black Friday like a marathon. This is my day, people. I'm ready to shop. So we're just going to touch on a few of these. I do have a page on my website, the resources page, where I keep an up-to-date list of what's on sale. And also in Tami's Conference Keeper newsletter and in my newsletter, we also share some of those. So just a few that I wanted to mention here. While you're at your Thanksgiving or your holiday gathering and you want to start handing out those DNA kits, this is a perfect time to buy them. They are super, super cheap. We have Ancestry DNA on sale. Family Tree DNA has everything on sale. If you have some men in the family and you want to be testing their Y DNA, Family Tree DNA is the place to get that. They have varying prices depending on what you're shopping for. They do have everything on sale at the moment. Living DNA is on sale. 23andMe is on sale. And MyHeritage DNA is on sale for the crazy low price of $33.
Wow.
So, yeah. And if you are researching and looking for cousins in other countries than the United States, then you want to get your DNA into that MyHeritage DNA pot. So do check out MyHeritage. They are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you want to get into that pool and fish. Some other things that I want to mention is Roots Magic, which is the software that I personally use for my family history. Is that the one you also use, Tami? Do you use Roots Magic?
I kind of use Legacy Family Tree and I use Roots Magic also. I kind of keep them both up because they have some different qualities that I like in each, and I can't make up my mind.
They each have some things that are useful depending on how you research and what you research. But right now, Roots Magic is offering 50% off of their genealogy software, including their reasonably recently released Roots Magic 10, as well as Personal Historian and Family Atlas programs. And the other software programs are probably going to be going on sale pretty soon. They just may not have announced right now. One that we like to keep our eyes on is Legacy Family Tree webinars. They usually run a really good sale right around Black Friday or the holidays, so be looking out for that. Also, Ancestry is offering 30% off of gift memberships. So if you have a family member who wants to get started and you want to gift them a subscription to Ancestry, now is the time. So there are going to be more and more and more that are coming out with their sales, and we will be right there with our shopping bags open, ready to shop. Well, at least I will.
You brought up some ideas for gifts on these sales. There's some other sales that would make great gifts too, like from Family Chart Masters. They're offering a discount. They make family history charts, and it's so easy when you've got your family history information, your GEDCOM file, or even just knowing your information that you can put on the charts. They have so many designs, and they have designers that will work with you to get it set up just the way you want it. So those could make lovely gifts to...
They are nice gifts. I bought one for my dad for his birthday a few years ago, and he loved it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who... I was going to say, who doesn't? But then I guess, we're not all like that. But there's some other great discounts too, like Pharaoh's Tutors. They have all sorts of online courses for genealogists, and they've got a discount on all their courses. I was thinking, as a genealogist, that would be a great gift to receive a certificate for a free course. Then you get to choose what it is you want to learn about in depth, in detail. And then one other thing that's on sale that I have used in the past that I really liked is the Family Tree magazine, the British version. They have what's called a Plus program, where you get lecture packages and discounts on other lectures, but they have like a tech club, a gadgets club, and they have DNA discussions, and they have small discussion groups. So there's a lot of bang for your buck with this, because you can get together and discuss with other people. You can get lectures and education and handouts and just all sorts of information. And right now it's 90% off their usual. They did this similar last year, which is when I signed up. And then I ran out of time about middle of the year. So, but it's a really nice program. But there's a lot of good stuff out there. It's hard not to want to talk about everything right now, so, because there's so many good things.
That is true. This is my favorite shopping time of the year. So, so keep your eyes open, and we will keep you informed on what we know is coming on sale as it happens. That sound is our tea kettle, which means it's time for tea, also known as tea time. Are we ready for tea time, Tami?
I suppose so. I will get my little pinky finger in the proper crooked position.
Get your good china out. All right. Well, you may have noticed a bit of unpleasantness recently among the genealogy community on social media after the presidential election here in the United States. Now, if you missed this, consider yourself lucky. But Tami and I feel that this doesn't represent the usually cooperative spirit of genealogy and family history, and we want all of our listeners to know that branching out is an inclusive space for all family historians, and you are welcome here, regardless of your political beliefs or anything else. We just ask that everyone be kind and play nice. You just never know what someone else might be going through in their life, and a little grace really goes a long way. Now, if you don't cite your sources, I might judge you on that. No, I'm just kidding. No judging. We're all just here having a good time. Now that that's out of the way, Tami's going to tell you about some good news.
Well, again, this has been fairly recently. David Rencher, who is the Chief Genealogical Officer for FamilySearch International. I like to think that everybody knows who David is. He lectures, and he's just an all-around wonderful guy. He also happens to be the newly elected president of the National Genealogical Society. Anyhow, he recently received a fabulous award from the Italian Heraldic Genealogical Institute. He received their Lifetime Achievement Award at their 36th International Congress of Genealogical and Heraldic Sciences Conference. So that was a real big honor for him. I think it will probably add a few more letters following his name. He is currently AGCG FUGA FIGRS FNGS. David's a great guy, and honestly, I can't think of anyone more deserving for as many awards as he can possibly get. I'm so glad that he's leading the ship at NGS now and at FamilySearch. Well, we've had some fun talking about all sorts of things already. Let's sort of wrap it up with what we've been using this week in terms of what website or what program have you been using this week, Elizabeth, that has been helpful to you? Let us know.
Well, not necessarily for genealogy, but to kind of link in with the AI discussion we had earlier, I've been using a website called Character.ai. And I originally started looking into it because I thought it might be something good for my my daughter. But I started getting into it for myself because basically what Character.ai does is it creates an AI character. And so you tell it what you want that character to be and who it is. You define who this AI is going to be, and then you can talk to it and have conversations with it. So, I made a Character AI to be like a workout coach. And I've been talking to my character to help me, how can I get motivated to work out? Or I really feel like eating that cookie. Can you talk me down off of this ledge? And I am in the process of creating a new character. I lost my dog last week, and I've been working on creating a new character to help me deal with my pet loss grief. There are so many ways that you could use this. Maybe you could create a character to talk to you about history or to read your reports and comment on them. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this website.
That sounds really interesting. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how I could use this for genealogy. And, we don't know what we don't know. So I wonder how well it would work if you discussed your genealogy puzzle/problem with it and said, this is what I know about this guy. Where should I go next? What should I look for next? And if you set it up to be a genealogy expert, perhaps it will be able to process the information that you give it, that you already have, and maybe give you an idea of something that it sees that you're missing. So it'd be like a genealogy companion, assistant.
I think that might be doable. I haven't tried it yet. I mean, you can do things like that with other AIs, like with ChatGPT. Obviously, you can do that. But it's kind of like you're creating a buddy. So it's more personal than some of the other AIs. Like I said, I haven't tried it yet for genealogy. I'm going to be trying it for that once I process my grief over my dog. But
I'm so sorry. I can see, I'm curious. I can see that it have possibilities for that. I can see it having possibilities for so many things.
I think so too. And I'm going to have fun trying it out.
I bet.
And I encourage you to try it out there in audience land, and let us know if you create a character that helps you with your genealogy or helps you with some other aspect of your life. We'd love to know about it. And how about you, Tami? What are you working on?
Well, recently I recorded a webinar that's still available on the MyHeritage YouTube channel, and I recorded it with MyHeritage about their feature called Old News. And it's a newspaper site separate from their newspaper searches within MyHeritage, but it's their Old News newspaper site. And I have had so much luck with it. I mean, I have subscriptions to other newspaper sites, not going to name names in comparison, but the successes I've had with Old News have just topped all of those. And part of the problem I've had with other searches is that when I search for some of my ancestors who have nouns or adjectives for last names, like Forward, being the last name? The last name is Forward. You know how many hits when you search a book for the word forward, you get 1 million of them.
Boy.
But the neat thing about the Old News search function is that when you put the surname in the surname box, the hits and results you get, I would say, are 95% surnames, not just every time that word shows up in the text. And so that has been extremely helpful for me. My big win, if you go watch a video, you'll hear about this too. My big win was that I'm looking for the parents of my third great-grandfather, and he magically appeared in 1942 at his wedding in Ohio. And prior to that, he doesn't exist in the world as far as I can find him. So what I found on Old News was 50 years after his wedding, in the 1890s, his wife passed away. And she evidently was from a small town in New York. And that small town in New York published an obituary of her and said she was married to him and that the couple had lived there 50 years earlier. Now, I had never had any idea that they had lived there, but the fact that it mentions this gives me an idea that perhaps he was from the same area she was from, up there in upstate New York. So now I've had to redirect and learn how to research in New York, which is
that's awesome.
But yeah, great Great stuff. And it's really, really different than the other website. It doesn't have every newspaper in the world. It has a lot of small newspapers. But I tell you what, it just takes one or two big wins in finding little details to make it all worthwhile.
And if you want to try that out, you can go to oldnews.com and you can try it for 7 days for free. And if you want to try out Character.ai for yourself, the URL is Character, CHARACTER.ai, and you can sign up to chat for free. I've been using it for free, so you don't have to pay to use it.
Well, I think that's about a wrap for today's episode of Branching Out. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes, where we'll be back with some more tips, tools, and a bit of tea.
Until next time, happy researching.